you start to develop this understanding that through communication, you're not made to be the bad guy. You're not made to be wrong, but instead you are now seeing a reality around you in which your fears are being alleviated.
This is the Deep Dive with Adam Roa.
What up, deep divers? Hello, hello. It's your boy, Adam Roa. I'm here. I'm back. It's a deep dive musing. And today we're going to continue to unravel attachment. And specifically, I'm going to get into attachment theory today. And this is based off of my new song, Go. Hopefully you've heard it by now. If you haven't, you might want to go listen to it on Spotify or Apple Music or YouTube or all the places, because I'm going to be unraveling some of what's talked about in there, specifically with the chorus, which is, baby, will you come back home? I'm dying. Every time you call my name, I'm there. Baby, will you come back home? I'm trying, but you go. But you go. Boom, 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 boom. And then there's a dope drop. So anyway, this song has so much of my attachment in it. And there's different attachment styles. And so I'm going to break down the 4 different attachment styles in today's podcast. Before I do that, I want to remind you, encourage you, invite you, and ask you, please, to subscribe, follow, do all of those things on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts to really help with the algorithms. Let those big brother programs know that you like this podcast, and let's grow this together so more people have this information, and we can live in a world where people are actually becoming the highest, most evolved, and beautiful versions of themselves. Because that would be dope, wouldn't it? But don't get too attached to that. That's what today's about. Don't get too attached to that. The attachment theory is actually far more complex than what I'm going to cover today. Today, I'm going to go into just a brief overview. There's a book called Attached, which you can check out, which has a simplified view of attachment theory as well. Or you could Google it. It's actually called Attachment Theory. You could do a bunch of research around this. For today, simplistically, I want to explain what it is and the ways that you can spot certain attachment styles and how to know your own style and how to be with that. Because I think there's this idea that attachment is bad. First and foremost, like if you're attached to things, that's not so good, and that we're supposed to really let all of our attachments go. And yet biologically, attachment's incredibly important. We are designed to get attached to things for our own survival. And that starts with our parents. Plain and simple, it starts with our parents. Biologically, you need your parents to just survive more than basically any other mammal on the planet. Human beings, if left alone, they will just die. You need your parents, or you need a parental figure that is going to take care of you and feed you and grow up for quite a long time, actually. It's going to be a while before you start to take care of yourself. And as a result, our attachment styles develop based on our parents, based on whoever raised us, which is what I'm using when I say parents. And there are 4 main attachment styles that we develop and we can see in adults. 1 is secure. 2 is anxious. 3 is avoidant. And 4 is disorganized. Okay? And I'm going to go into each of those. And remember, this is a simplified version because there is such thing as anxious, avoidant, and various other aspects. So in this simplified version, understand that the quote unquote healthy way is secure attachment. Secure attachment happens when your parents raised you in a way where they were there for your needs, and they had they weren't like helicopter parents. They were there when you needed anything. They gave the right amount of encouragement, and they took care of you. And as a result, you developed a secure attachment style where you had, as a child, what we see in babies is that when the parent goes, when the caretaker goes, there's some that's not nice. I don't like that. And then when the caretaker comes back, there's happiness, right? Like that's secure, that's normal. And as a result, we develop about 50% of the population has a secure attachment style, which means that you grow healthily attached to your romantic partners and aren't too devastated when those relationships don't work out or when that partner doesn't work out in the way that you thought. Okay, I think that's a pretty self-explanatory. About 50% of you have that. For those of you 50% who have it, congratulations. You become the like rock in a relationship. Generally, two secure people will have really great relationship dynamics. And a secure person can be with an anxious or avoidant or disorganized attachment style person, because that security allows for a foundation within the relationship that's actually helpful. And as long as there's good communication, can really work out. Where things can get more complex is when you have the anxious and avoidant, especially the anxious and avoidant pairing. That's like the quote unquote worst one. So let's go into anxious. Okay. The anxious attachment style, it comes from children whose caretakers basically were in what's the word? Sporadic with the needs. Like sometimes the needs were met, sometimes they weren't. There was this, I don't know if I'm going to get taken care of or not in any given moment. And so what happens is that these children grow up to become adults that have an anxious attachment style. And what that means is they make their partner their everything. These people fall in love deeply, very, very fast, or what they think is love, right? Deeply and very, very fast, because this partner needs to be their everything. You'll see things like over communication. These are the people who, if they haven't heard back from their partner in like 30 minutes, are sending a follow-up text. These are the people who show up at their partner's work or school or whatever, just being like, hey, I just missed you, and just like showing up to continue to reinforce how important that person is in their life. And that anxiousness of making the partner the perfect partner. It's like, this person is absolutely perfect. This is exactly who I've been calling in. And as a result to that, there is an anxious attachment. And this is most commonly portrayed in mainstream media as being feminine. When you think about that, like the crazy girlfriend who just is all up in your business, that is the stereotypical feminine attachment style is anxious. Okay. And they are often drawn to avoidance, the people who have an avoidant attachment style. So avoidant attachment style happens for children who their caretakers are just distant, like who are not really there to meet the needs of the child. And as a result of that, the child becomes essentially ambivalent to it. So the caretaker leaves, and the child doesn't have, like, internally is having that reaction, but when the caretaker comes back is ambivalent, but there's like, yeah, whatever. And just like, so an example of what that looks like is the child will continue playing as if the caretaker didn't even come back, right? It's this avoidant, like, oh, I don't care. Think too cool for school, but like literally in children. And it's not because they don't care. It's because that they have so much wounding around not having their needs met that it's actually safer for them to push away. It's actually safer for them to be like, okay, fine, I don't need you, and put up that kind of wall. And so adults, when they grow up, they get this avoidant style. And the avoidant style is just that. It's a fear of intimacy. And when things get too close, a pushing away. Say of literally avoiding what could be a opportunity for the relationship to get even closer. And so this can look like, while the anxious style, right, is making their partner the perfect partner, saying this, I'll never meet anyone like this. If you've ever thought that in your mind, like, I'll never meet anyone who's as good a match for me as this person. That's the anxious attachment style. The avoidant is always spotting what's wrong. Always like seeing these little flaws in your partner. If you're constantly looking, yeah, I don't like this about her, or I don't like that about him, right? That's an avoidant characteristic, because it's allowing you to keep someone at a particular distance of never actually getting too close, because as a child, as you realize, when you got that close, you couldn't actually rely on that person. And so the avoidant patterns that can happen as an adult with an anxious person. They get both of their seemingly get both of their identity patterns solidified. And that's what the ego wants, is to say, you're right. This is true. And so the anxious, when they're with an anxious avoidant, when they're with an avoidant, the avoidant keeps pushing them away. And that lets the anxious person reinforce this idea that there is something wrong with them. That as an anxious person, my attachment style, this person keeps pushing me away, keeps spotting my flaws, keeps gaslighting me or whatever it is. I can see that there's something wrong with me. That's contributing and confirming the need for my anxious attachment. And then the avoidant, right? The avoidant is so afraid of losing their freedom and their independence that the anxious person, who's trying to grab onto them all the time, wanting to spend all their free time and saying, you're the perfect person for me, that avoidant person is getting confirmation bias to the fact that people always want to take my freedom. People always want to clamp down on me and reinforce that belief pattern. And remember that the ego is trying to prove you right. The ego is trying to prove you right. And so these beliefs get reinforced, especially when people don't have the awareness. Awareness gives us choice. What you're doing right now is you're gaining awareness. Please don't be judging yourself. Don't be shaming yourself. If you're going, oh my gosh, I totally am an anxious attachment type person, amazing. Because it's not static. There is the opportunity, there is the possibility for you to change it, but you need the awareness first. And that's what I'm hoping you're getting today. And so I'm going to cover the fourth one. There's about 20 to 25% of people who have the anxious and 20 to 25% of the people who have the avoidant. And so that last like 3 to 5% is really, really rare. It's disorganized. Disorganized attachment style is kind of a blend of anxious and avoidant, and often can be the result of really confusing, wounded childhoods like sexual abuse or various things that can create a inner environment where it just doesn't make sense. What is up, deep divers? I just want to take a moment and let you know that this Friday, November 20th, my new song, Chase Me, comes out to the world. It is a cosmic whirlwind romance love song where I'm actually singing full out. It's the first song that I ever wrote on an acoustic guitar while in 5 days of silence in Thailand. And if you are listening to this before Friday, November 20th, it means that you can pre-save the song, which would be a huge help and support to me personally, because it lets the algorithms know that you want it. And it also means that you'll be notified as soon as the song is available. If you are listening to this after November 20th, it means that Chase Me is out. It is out into the world. And so you have an opportunity to go stream it on all platforms. I hope you do. I hope you like it. And I cannot wait to share this newest song with all of you, to where it doesn't even necessarily make sense. And so that it's not as clear as, oh, my needs aren't met by my caretaker, or my needs are sometimes met. It's far more confusing, and it's rare, but it does exist. Okay. And so now I think what's most important, now that you have the awareness and hopefully you've been getting a sense of your normal attachment style, there's some very common like thoughts that go along with each of them. And you can look that up. I would just encourage you to just Google it if you want to go dive deeper into it. They have quizzes you can take online even to determine more of your attachment style. But what I want to get to now is in letting you know that you can shift it, and how do you shift it? And more importantly, how do you operate with that knowingness? How do you, because it's not about anything being wrong. Remember, attachment styles are important. You developing into an anxious attached person or an avoidant attached person is the result of how you were raised as a belief instilling defense mechanism. You were taught early on that you wouldn't get your needs met. Great. I don't want to rely on anyone. I'm going to become avoidant. That's what happens. It's not bad. There's nothing wrong with you, right? And the number one way that you get to start to have healthy relationship dynamics, once you have this awareness, is communication. Clear, effective communication. Because at the end of the day, what the anxious attachment or the avoidant attachment is actually doing is trying to protect yourself. It's trying to protect your feelings, trying to protect you biologically. And if you can begin to effectively communicate what you're feeling with an understanding of where it's coming from and why it's there, if you can do that and start to get a reflection from your partner. And that's the thing about being in a conscious relationship. Mind you, there's a lot of partners that who you might be with right now may not be able to be this person for you, which is unfortunate because it means that if you want to be in a healthy relationship dynamic, you're probably going to have to break up. Hate to break it to you. It's just kind of how it is. It's one of the scariest aspects of personal development is realizing, oh, wait, I'm growing as a person, and therefore the person I'm with who's not growing with me is no longer a match. That can be quite scary. And so I'm sending you lots of love right now. I'm going to just take a moment. I'm sending you love. Bless, 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 bless. Sending it to you. Just letting you know that you're not alone. You're on this journey. And I'm so proud of you for even thinking about this stuff. But effective communication is the number one way. It's the number one way because you start to one, by communicating it, you've already acknowledged that there's a part of you that is worthy of being expressed. Your attachment needs are worthy of being expressed. You are now no longer keeping them hidden in the closet, afraid of what the other person might think. That's a huge step in the self-love chain. 2, what you are doing is giving your partner an opportunity to love you better, to match you better, to understand what your needs are and give them the opportunity to meet you in those needs. And then 3, what you're also doing is you are learning that it's safe. You're learning that it's actually safe to communicate that and hold yourself in, again, a space of self-love and worthiness where you are willing to stand for what you need. You are saying, I need this. Can you meet me here? And you'll start to see that the safer you feel in having your needs met and expressing them, that you're no longer going to need the anxious or the avoidant attachment styles to protect yourself. When you start to communicate and say, this is what I feel, then you get it. You start to develop this understanding that through communication, you're not made to be the bad guy. You're not made to be wrong, but instead you are now seeing a reality around you in which your fears are being alleviated through love, through the invitation for your partner to love you in a way that fits you. And so through that repetitively and through working on it, you can start to shift your attachment styles into more of a secure. I know for myself, I believe myself to definitely have been disorganized, which is a fear of, for me specifically, it was this fear of intimacy, incredibly scared of getting too close and too intimate. And yet at the same time, so anxiously holding on. So I would push people away when they got too close to me. And yet the moment that they went too far, I would reach out and try and grab on and try and hold on. And I was doing this push, pull, like a lot throughout all my early childhood. And that came from in what I've discovered to be like my father, who incredibly distant, feeling like my needs weren't met in that space. But my mother, who through her own just like anxious attachment style was always there, always wanting to be a part of it. And then you add in the sexual abuse, you add being cheated on, like all of these things. And it created quite a disorganized attachment style for myself. And I recently, in preparation for this podcast even, I went in and retook my attachment style quiz. And the quiz that I took said I have a secure attachment style. I thought that was amazing. I was like celebrating because I know that wasn't how it was before. But how did that happen? That happened because of my ability to communicate and my ability to do other things. Like, so if you're in an anxious attachment style, for example, when you're holding on and saying this person is the perfect partner, one of the things that you get to do is start to realize that there are other amazing partners for you. Like, that's a thing that you can do. And that's not saying that you need to devalue the person you're with, but understanding that this person isn't your only chance at happiness. Say that if this relationship ends, I'll find someone else. My heart might break for a while, but like I'll find someone else. Like that sort of thinking is something that's helpful for someone who has anxious attachment. Someone who has avoidant attachment, something that's incredibly important is to focus on the positives of your partner. To consistently look at all of the good qualities of your relationship so that as it can continue to get better and you don't have to push it away. So there's all these little nuances and ways of being when you understand your attachment style that you can apply to your life, which will continue to move you in the direction of a secure attachment style. And when you start to communicate your needs effectively and they start to get met because you have found the partner who can match you and has a healthy relationship dynamic, you're going to see your entire relationship landscape change. How you are feeling loved in your life will change dramatically. And you can start to live the life that you know deep down you deserve. Whew. That was a long one, right? We really went in, and I hope that this has been helpful. I released this song, Go, this track that I worked on with my buddy Angus Wilson and Adam Knight, and the three of us were going through something very similar. And when I look back on the track and even the words of the track and where I was at that time, there was definitely attachment. 100%. I was unwilling to let something go. And there was an anxiousness to it where I felt like I was throwing it all away and I would never be happy again. I would never meet someone who could fulfill me in that way. I was wrong. And I don't beat myself up about it. I learn from it. I grow from it. And I develop myself into a more aligned, expanded, and upgraded version of who I desire to be. You, having this awareness, now have the choice to do the same thing. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part in this journey. If you're in a relationship or you have an ex or whatever that you're still talking to, maybe send them this podcast. Like, let this be something that initiates conversation that the two of you can have together and learn to love yourself even more and love each other even more. As always, in all ways, you are seen, you are heard, and you are loved. Have a beautiful day.